Hello there, YouTubers. This is CD Mangaka, and here we are, another 2 weeks and another episode of Musical Opinions. But before we get into the juicy little details of what we're going to talk about today, I might as well reintroduce the series for some new fans that have gotten over from Ronaldinho's channel. Here's a basic rundown. For the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to be stealing moments of your lives that you'll never be able to get back, in order for you to listen to me talk about an album and my opinions on it. Now, generally speaking, I pick albums two ways. One, my own personal music collection, or two, I have a fan recommend music to me in the comment section of Musical Opinions video, and then, a little voting contest occurs and whatever. And last week's winner was Suicide Silence. Excuse me, last time's winner was Suicide Silence. So before we get into the music, I might as well go ahead and give you background on the band. Suicide Silence is an extreme metal band from California and consists of singer Mitch Lucker, the guitarist Chris Garza, and Mark Haleman. I have no idea how you pronounce that. Drummer Alex Lopez and bassist Dan Kenny. It was formed in 2002, and the band has gone on to receive overall critical and commercial success within their genre, and they received 2 Revolver Golden God Awards. Revolver is a magazine, actually, for hard rock and metal, and the Golden God Award basically says your band rocks the hardest, kind of like a Golden God, I suppose. Now, let's get into the music. The album I listened to by Suicide Silence was called No Time to Bleed, and it was released back in 2008, and it featured the songs Wake Up, Lifted, Smoke, Something Invisible, No Time to Bleed, Suffer, and Then She Bled, Wasted, Your Creations, Genocide, and Disengage. Now, just before we go on, I don't have really extensive background with metal, so coming into this review, I'm a little bit of a novice who's, out of his element, I'll say. I've only listened to one metal group before, and that was for actually a previous Musical Opinions, where I talked about Gwar and their album War Party, and I said that it was new, I liked the change of pace, from the usual music I listen to, and the fact that they created this whole little alternate universe with with characters. They actually created characters that they performed and acted out on stage, and I thought that was just really intriguing, actually. So with the bar set up like that, I was kind of interested to see what Suicide Silence was going to bring in and to destroy my house and to make my parents question what satanic friends I have. And after going on and listening to a few songs in the album, I could almost see the dramatic irony in saying that you hear one metal band, you've heard them all. Because practically every song, save the occasional standout, consists of the following 3 things in heavy metal: mercilessly pounding on the drums, heavy low-tune guitar riffs playing at a brutal rhythm or insanely fast pace, and the vocals that either growl low like an old dragon who's smoking tobacco, or a little more ghouly like a Halloween ghost with a forked tongue. But now this little criticism here, you could probably say is actually a little hypocritical, because those are just what makes metal music. And that's just for me, you can turn on me and say but CD, but look at 3 Days Grace, look at Skillet, look at Breaking Benjamin. All they do is the occasional acoustic riff, they have local guitars, the occasional little scream effect of their music, some piano accompaniment. Why aren't you getting mad at their cliches? And the answer is because when they do their cliches, at least they throw in variety within one album. Allow me to elaborate here. Suicide Silence just seems to be like a one-trick pony. That's all they do. It's just all they do. Song after song just sounds the exact same because it's just the same style. There's no real difference to it. There's no little light little song. There's no little heavier song, and it kind of just begins to lose all impact from it. Now, before we go any further, I want to elaborate and say that I don't hate metal at all. Okay, any contempt and anger and hate I have for a music genre is reserved for few genres, which consist of rap, pop, and I have one bullet in my 9mm that I reserve especially for a certain teenage pop star out there. But whereas I just really dislike that music, metal, and I respect it, but I just don't really get into it. Okay, for comparison here, whereas say 3 Days Grace and I hit it off on the first date, we go back to my place for some really passionate love making, and then just watch chick flick movies with breakfast in bed all day and the next day. Suicide Silence, along with the rest of metal, kind of seems we strike it off more kind of like your ex-lover setting you up with a new date. It's just awkward, and there's a fear of it somehow biting you in the ass, or that somehow it's a devilish trick on you, I suppose. Now, I will say that Suicide Silence does in fact do heavy metal very well. It's relentless. I love the drums in it. The vocals are truly dark and devilish, and they have this very cool sound that I do like to them. The guitars are tuned so low that you might as well not be wearing the strap around your shoulder as you're playing it, and just let it lie on the floor. And it all sounds really good, and it is well executed. And that's really all it is, because there's just no variety in it. Suicide Silence, kind of like War, was a one-trick pony, where all they could do was the heavy riffs with and dancing back and forth between your low growls and your ghoulish screams. That's a bad impersonation of them, but that's kind of like the effect. That's all they do over and over. There was no real variety to it. There was no real differentiation. I think I messed up on that word there. There's nothing new. Honestly, I could not tell differences between the songs. You know, if you were to have me sit down and do a blind earring test, I could not differentiate any of the songs in the album save for 2, and I'll explain why a little later. And that was named for a few reasons. Vocals was one thing, but I'll actually get on to talk about that for a minute. I'm saying I'm going to rag on something like that. I'm going to rag on something for a moment. To me, it seems like metal doesn't really get the idea that variety is, in fact, the spice of life, and that intensity isn't so intense when you drag it out for 40 minutes. Loud is only loud when it's quiet preceding the loudness and quiet after the loudness. A tree falling down, you know, on a clear, quiet, sunny day is going to hurt your ears and startle you because you weren't expecting it, and it's different. It was quiet before, now all of a sudden, crash, boom, timber. But say you go to a chainsaw factory, and they're just revving up the chainsaws like constantly. At first you start for a moment if it's quiet, but as the loudness just continues on and on and on, you just get used to it, and so far you don't even notice it's loud anymore because you're just accustomed to the sound of going on. And that's kind of like what Suicide Silence is. Now I'm saying they sound like chainsaws, I'm just saying they have the same effect as just listening to a loud noise for a long period of time. They do a great job of being intense, don't get me wrong, but they'd be more intense if they would ease down the throttle and for the sake of contrast in there. And contrast is, in fact, very key to, you know, enjoying the moment. Whenever you were a young little kid and you came inside for hot chocolate, you loved the hot chocolate, not because it was just hot, but because you were freezing cold after freezing your ass off in the cold winter snow outside. The contrast there improved the moment. And the same thing I believe can be said for music. Now, I do understand, for one point, that the point of metal, the genre of metal, is to be non-stop annihilation to your ears, and that's its thing. I will give it that much, and I will understand that it respected for doing it well. But be aware here that this show is entitled Musical Opinions and not Musical Facts. So personally, I think that the unrelenting makes you numb, and it's just like, what's the point of being numb? But on the other hand, I do know that some people get off on being numb, and that's the point of metal. So therefore, bravo to it, but that's not how I get off indeed. Other people may get off to it, and I respect that. Go ahead and listen to it. But just don't expect you to get away with playing it on my car radio when I'm in the car with you. Now moving on, I'm going to hit at one point where that really kind of makes it hard for me to really identify with the band and kind of, you know, overall, you know, really get into their music. I enjoyed it, but I don't get into it. It's the lyrics and how they do them. Now, I found that as I read the lyrics, I actually liked the stuff that Suicide Silence wrote up. I mean, they focused on individual turmoils, all the wrong things with other people. I mean, it sounded like my kind of song, just like, you know, personal issues. A key listener, though, as I'm talking here, will note that I said, as I read them. Another reason why metal and I never really hit it off in the morning was because metal groups really focus on just transforming the vocals into a distorted instrument that sounds evil and powerful and downright badass, and it totally does, and I like it. But when you do that for the entire song, you do that, and it loses its intensity there, and you also sacrifice comprehension of the lyrics and a human emotional connection other than just, you know, blind range. Now, don't get me wrong here, I do like the scream effect in music. I mean, the scream effect is the reason why Breaking Benjamin and I go out to the movies every week and make out during the commercials, or the advertisements, excuse me. But for me, the scream, to me, the release, in my opinion, this is a musical opinion, it's not facts, the scream is an accent that is used to add contrast and variety to a song and to throw in a burst of anger in a song to just, you know, add intensity to the moment. When you do it constantly, again, because there's no contrast, it loses all impact and intensity and just becomes a part, you know, of the song and, you know, part of the rhythm, and furthermore, you don't understand it. To me, a singer's job in the band is to add the human element into a song. To accompany the song, you know, vocally, instrumentally, by articulating a possible meaning of the instrumental sound that the song creates. And so by doing this, you give the listener of the song a way to, you know, humanly identify with the instrumental part of the song. And Suicide Silence, along with Gwar, and, you know, I think most metal groups, and at least the few I listen to, again, I'm no expert on the area, and I'm a total novice in here, so you can, again, totally write off my opinion as total rubbish, and again, this isn't my thing. In my opinion, though, metal just seems to abandon the easily accessible connection that, you know, having a human voice does in favor of having a distorted instrument that sounds badass and evil, but it just loses impact for the spice of life craver, such as myself. Now, I will say, I can't imagine that hardcore fans of the metal genre probably have an easier time than, you know, someone like me who's almost a bit of like, I'll say, a metal virgin in that aspect, that identifying with the lyrics of a song and understanding what they're saying as they're going along with their death scream style. they're probably better than I am, so I will congratulate them on that ability because they have more talent in that regard than I do. But it just makes it really difficult to get into the genre when you come from a different kind of background. It's tough to get into something when it's strange and you have to get a while and take adapt to it. It's not like I can just pick up the song and go, oh, I like this. Instead, I have to kind of sit in for a while, kind of try it on, look at it in the mirror for a while, and just go with the flow. And a voice does not have to be distorted to be instrumental or to be unique. Alright, normal singing has its own natural beauty to it, and for a source for you to check out, I'm going to might as well make it do this right now. I'm going to recommend that you go onto YouTube and then you look up this, you type in these words, 3 Days Grace, Rooster Live at the Palace. You'll come up with a video of Adam Gontier playing the acoustic guitar in Detroit during a concert. It's not like a fan video. It's like a professionally done video that for a DVD they came out with. And Adam Gontier sings an acoustic guitar. And I want you to watch that and go ahead and tell me, that wasn't a good job and that the voice isn't a musical instrument after watching that. In summary, overall, I don't mind Suicide Silence. It's a band that knows what it wants to do, and it does it very well. And based on the reviews and the rewards they receive, they do a good job of it too. But as a rock fan, I'm venturing into a new planet that's, like a whole new, culture whose customs are intriguing to me, but they're a little strange and I don't really comprehend them. And I can't help but think, maybe if they tried this out, maybe it would turn out a little better. Although, one could argue, but you're just trying to make it your own kind of music here. I'm going to bring up one little point here within the song that I actually liked. There was a highlight in the album for me, and the highlight was a song called And Then She Bled. Alright? They do this beautiful experiment. Alright? It works out great. Alright? The song, there's no singing, there's no death growl in it. Okay, which, not to say it's an improvement or anything. And it's not this unrelenting beat. It's not typical metal. What they do is that they actually take the 911 call of the woman calling the police, screaming that her friend is being beaten to the brink of death by a domesticated chimpanzee. Maybe you've heard stories about this, maybe you've heard of it before, but they slowly would build up to it. They had it playing in the background constantly, and they played this very creepy little guitar, with the drums, doing a little accompaniment to it, and it terrified the hell out of me, and I absolutely loved it. It was new, it was different, it was unique. It wasn't the same unrelenting metal. It was the variety I was craving for, and for it being different, it stood out, and I loved it all the more. It was one of the 2 songs I could listen to off of that album, and I could instantly name due to its sound, and not because it was just shouting, "Wake up, wake up!" Overall, Suicide Silence, it's okay. I can get into it. I can tolerate it. And it was worth the experiment, and I would imagine that if I were to listen to it like on a rotation on my iPod with some other music on it, that I would actually, like the contrast in there. But overall, I think that, it's a little too self-focused, and maybe they could branch out a little more with some creepy experiments like they did with the And Then She Bled song. So anyways, this has been Musical Opinions, guys. Don't bother suggesting groups for me to listen to for next Musical Opinions week in the comment section of this video. I've decided that, it's about time I do my own album choice. So please leave the video a rating and comment about what if you agree with me on some things or whatnot. This is CD Mangaka, bidding a farewell to you guys. I will catch you all probably Saturday. I'll try to upload a live commentary Saturday, and then Monday will be another breaking down Black Ops. Thank you all for listening to the video. I hope you have a fantastic day.